we realized that, a couple of years in that we needed to take a step back and understand them better. It was really transformational in how we marketed the product, but it was also in like transformational to the product team and how they spoke to the customers.
So, Stacy, thank you for joining me today on Just One Thing. As you know, my name is Dennis Mink. I work for Biddy's, Chief Marketing Officer. Appreciate you joining me to talk about some of your experience working in growth marketing.
Yeah, great. For having me, Dennis. Great to be here.
I know these days you're working as a fractional growth strategist, and you have what a very serious resume here. I am you a senior director of product marketing at SoFi, VP of marketing at Joy, Growth Officer at Sounding Board, VP of Marketing at Credit Sesame, which I imagine most everyone, in our world knows. And I saw that you also got your MBA at UNC Chapel Hill.
Yeah, that's
It's,
right. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a resume there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I spent most of my career in fintech and, just really enjoy being in the tech world. And then more recently, yeah, have worked a lot with startups, growth stage companies, and have gone out on my own and doing the consulting thing and really enjoying it and loving working with different brands all the time. It's fun.
Yeah, it's great. I know a number of people who have gone off to focus or try to focus on building their own consulting business. And along the way, they've discovered it can be very difficult, like very, very challenging, especially when you need to around securing clients, dealing with billing and so on. I'm curious to hear a little bit about what's your experience been as you've been building your own consultancy.
Yeah, it can definitely be a hustle, compared to being in-house where, you wake up every day and you're just working for that one brand, that one company, and you've got the same people around you every day and day in and day out. It's quite a bit different than that, right? Like you're juggling different clients at different times, and sometimes they need different things on the same day, and you've got to figure out how you're going to balance all that. But I find it fun. I think that it's really a challenge to serve different brands and to dive into their various challenges and work with different teams. But yeah, it can definitely be harder at times whenever you're wrapping up one client and trying to get a new one, and you're kind of just constantly out there getting new business, and it's a lot more of a hustle, like I mentioned.
Yeah, it's a hustle. Yeah, I totally agree. So can you tell me, I'm real curious, tell me a little bit about who are you working with these days and what's the nature of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I've got a couple clients right now. One is in the health tech space, and it's an early stage company. I can't mention their name, but they are doing some really great work with consumer health, and we're working on their go to market strategy and just really helping them identify who their best customers are, who they really should be targeting, and then how to most effectively position the product to those customers. And so we've been doing lots of experiments and iterations from experiments and trying to figure out how we really take this product to the next stage of growth. So that's one of my clients. And another client is a B2B SaaS company in the marketing and ad tech space. That's been a lot of fun as well. We're working on figuring out what are the right channels that they should be in, uh, and figuring out sort of their go to market strategy as well, and helping them figure out positioning, but also where their time is going to be best utilized from both demand gen and sales.
So these companies just you say that they're at a growth stage. Just give me an idea, what size companies are we talking about?
Yeah, so one is a bootstrapped company, but they're profitable and I think probably about 2 to 3 years old. So still pretty early stage. And then the other one is a venture backed seed stage company.
Okay. So early. So these are early companies, right?
Mhm.
And do I mean, I've done a bunch of consulting myself. Do they have anyone running marketing there? Do they have a team marketing teams or sales only?
No, so neither one of them have marketing teams. So I do have some marketing resources, meaning that there's some agencies that we're partnered with, and and there's salespeople that I'm working with at one of the companies, and so yeah, but very little resources at this point, and it's pretty early stage, and just trying to figure out like what resources they need, where they should be investing in terms of marketing, and then kind of helping them figure out that strategy from there.
Okay, okay, got it. Once again, I did when I left my prior company, where I spent 8.5 years. I ended up doing a lot of consulting with a bunch of companies in the mobile ad tech space,
Mhm.
about six or so. And from my experience, it was very similar. Like, we're not exactly sure how to best market our business,
Right,
how to build demand. We're not sure what to focus on. And oftentimes I would find that there would be some like hesitancy around like bringing someone in, spending money on these things when, when you typically are working with CEOs and co-founders that have very little experience in marketing.
right.
And maybe have kind of like, put their toes in and have not had success. What has your experience been?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a lot of that, right? With especially with early stage, it's kind of founders trying to figure out when is the best time to bring on, senior level leadership, especially when it comes to growth and marketing. But yeah, I think that a lot of times, like you come in with the challenge of the founders have done a great job at, building the product, like saying these are the features we have, and wanting to just kind of go to market with that. Whereas, like, when they bring in someone like myself, it's kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, well, let's think first of like who the customers are and what problems those people need solved and how this product helps them solve that, rather than kind of taking the inside out approach where it's like, here's what we have, just market that, right? So I think that it's helping them with the reframing a bit so that they can get to a place where their positioning is a lot more effective. Right.
Yeah, positioning. So let's talk about that for a second, because I think that um, I often wonder, like, positioning is one of these things where it's often questionable, like that if people really even understand what that is, let alone the importance of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've seen as well. I think that there's a lot of people that is I think especially founders that question and if that's really where the biggest challenge lies in their growth. But I think that oftentimes it is because I see a lot of brands like not necessarily, tying the positioning back to the customer's needs or their emotions or their motivations, right? Whereas, it's like, okay, here's all the things we do different than our competitors, and here's all the features we have, and let's just go out and market those things. Whereas I think you have to really take a step back, slow down for a second and say like, okay, let's take the customer approach to this and really figure out like how do we position this product in a way that's going to resonate more with the customers via their needs and their emotions and their motivations.
Yeah. So from your experience, like building your consultancy and working with different companies, like like when you come in and you start have to talk with them about, well, they'll tell you what they think they need. You'll probably come back with what you recommend. Walk me through. I'm kind of curious, like, once again, because I've done a bunch. So, like, how do you like how have you been approaching things? Like, because at the end of the day, they're like paying you to evaluate, maybe do an assessment, maybe build a plan, maybe execute. You talk about doing experiments. What have these plans looked like that you've been executing, that you've been like developing and executing on behalf of your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the client, right? It depends on what their needs are and kind of what they already have in place, what's been working, right? But I think that, a lot of times it comes down to like how much data they have to work with in the beginning too, right? Like I like to start from a place of, okay, let's look at the data that you have and, any signals that we can get, from customer conversations, consultations with, people who are just interested in the product, your leads, et cetera, looking at competitors. So I try to kind of take that approach where we try to dive in first to just kind of understand what some of those needs and motivations of customers might be, and then from there I think it's a matter of like understanding, okay, well, what have you guys tried so far, what's been working, what's not worked, and then kind of starting to fill in some of those gaps, right? So you can, start to identify, okay, like, here's a big opportunity, based off of, what we've seen, with other, similar brands, or, just based off of what it looks like your customers need that maybe you're kind of not doing today. Start to develop some hypothesis around, things that you might want to try, and some some experiments that you might want to run, and then sometimes helping them with the execution of those experiments, and sometimes it's kind of helping them get the right people in place so that they can run those experiments internally, but also being really clear on what it is that they're trying to learn and what it is that they hope to get out of those experiments, right? Like what's the kind of key measure of success. So I think that ultimately, like startups at the early stage, right, they want to do as much learning and experimentation as possible. So it's trying to get in there and almost be like an in-house marketer with them to help them develop that kind of experimentation muscle on the growth side.
Can you give some examples of experiments that you've run?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So there's a startup that I've worked with recently, who, has a kind of a high end product, and there's clear demand for the product, but it's tricky to sell because it's pretty expensive, right? So we've ran experiments to test different landing pages to see, are these, like these certain messages and, even ways of positioning and, needs that we've identified as potential needs for these clients, are these resonating with people, like, and trying out different landing pages to see if those are working, right? So, that's I think one thing that's been pretty successful in giving us a lot of information quickly is doing those landing page experiments, right? And then, also doing experiments on the kind of on the SaaS side of things, like trying to do email marketing experiments, right? So yeah, trying to help clients to really understand, okay, like, are these certain segments of users responding better, right? Are these, messages with these segments working better, and trying to help them identify the right segments of users to target in their email marketing as well. So I think that, you can base all of those experiments on kind of like, again, like going back to the data you have, developing those hypotheses around like, okay, we believe that this is worth learning about, this is worth knowing, and then that this will take us into understanding, how to better serve this segment of clients, or how to position better against this segment of.
So it sounds like most of the companies that you're working with, are they like D2C?
One is at the current time, one is D2C and one is B2B. In the past, it's funny because like it's typically been that same mix. When I've been in-house, a lot of my in-house experience is D2C. But a lot of the consulting work that I've gotten has been, I'd say like 50-50 B2B, B2C.
So it sounds like in many instances what you're doing is, what I hear you saying is, you're going to come in and you want to like gather in kind of data that they have on their customers. Take that, maybe you're enriching it with, maybe if you know the industry already, or maybe you're doing some third party research, so you can start to like identify maybe like unique segments. And then like some of the tests that you'll run, it sounds like, will involve like landing pages where you can do where you can do some message testing, or offer testing? Is that a lot of what you're experimenting with?
Yeah, a lot of what we do is message testing and a little bit of offer testing as well. So, yeah, with the message testing, testing messages both on the landing page but also in ads and with email marketing, right? So utilizing the list that the customers have and message testing inside those lists as well. The offer testing has been a bit trickier, but we have done some experimentation with offer testing as well.
I am very curious, like when you look back at, all the experience that you have now that you bring to your consultancy and working with clients is based on probably a lot of, a cumulative accumulation of the experience you have working at these different companies. I'm curious though, like if there was any one, like you kind of look back at your background, was there any like one experience you had, one it was just like it really kinda set the foundation for how you think about marketing and how you approach, growing your business?
Yes, for sure. So when was at Credit Sesame, I was the head of marketing over there. And we spent a lot of time trying to understand who our customers were, and we didn't do that initially, but we realized that a couple of years in that we needed to take a step back and understand them better. So we hired an outside group to help us with the jobs to be done. It was a workshop that we spent a week on, and and we had a lot of people involved internally, and it took a lot of resources, but it was really transformational in how we marketed the product. But it was also in like transformational to the product team and how they spoke to the customers because it created the insights that we had kind of been missing. Whereas, we kind of thought people were coming to us for something very different than what we really uncovered by talking to a lot of customers. And I think that it was that experience, which was 9, 10 years ago, that really kind of has shaped a lot of how I treat the marketing that I do with brands today, is that like you have to do that foundational work first because it just makes everything else that much more efficient, right? And I think that a lot of brands like don't want to take the step back and do that foundational work because you want to just keep going and you want to iterate and you want to just move quickly and I think that most of the time you have to do that and you have to also make sure that foundation is there, or you're going to be skipping over a lot of opportunities that you probably would have otherwise missed.
That sounds great. So this was a workshop
Mhm.
that someone initiated this in the organization, was that you?
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was actually our product team. A couple of people on the team had read a Clayton Christensen book, and it was, I think it's called Competing Against Luck. And then I read it, and a couple more people read it, and then we said, wow, we should see if there's a way that we can kind of train the rest of the team on this, both the marketers and the product team. And so we found some consultants who were able to come in and workshop with us for a full week. And we talked to a bunch of our customers on the phone and that experience working with those two guys who came in and worked with us in person, like I think for everyone that was involved in that process on the team, I think everybody kind of approached their role differently after that.
Competing against luck.
Yes, competing
That
against
sounds
luck. It's a really good
very
book.
yeah, that sounds really so great. They had Yeah, okay, great. And then last question. I was in San Francisco last week. We hosted a dinner and then I met up the next day with a good buddy of mine, Jasper, who runs marketing at
Oh
AppsFlyer in
yeah.
North. Yeah. You know Jasper?
Yes, I'm friends with their CMO. Yeah.
Ron?
L'Oreal? Yeah. Oh, wait, maybe a different person.
No, no, no. Yeah. Ron is the CMO for AppsFlyer out of Tel Aviv.
Okay, are you talking about Jasper, the brand Jasper?
No, I'm talking about my friend Jasper.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the marketing company called Jasper. Sorry.
Yeah. You won't take offense. In any case, so we just got together as we do periodically, and we just started talking shop. I'm curious, are you involved? Like, who do you turn to for collaboration or support or brainstorming? Like, are you part of any like marketing leadership groups, or do you have your own inner circle of people that you turn to for advice and support?
Yeah, over the years, there's been times where I've turned to some outside groups, but I found that, I've got a handful of people that, are just really great, thought leaders and people that I love to kind of talk shop with when it comes to marketing and growth and product and tech and AI and all that stuff. So, I think that for me, I get inspiration from those people that I've worked with over the years and, so kind of just my own inner network, really.
Got it. And speaking of AI, I'm curious, like, do you have any specific, go-to AI tools that you use in the work that you do?
I just use ChatGPT mostly. I love it, right? Like, I can't live without it anymore, and, that's really, my go-to right now.
How much more effective or efficient does ChatGPT help you be?
Yeah, if I had to quantify it, I would say I probably get 50% more communications done. I think it definitely helps me just kind of get through, the communications with like clients and partners. All of that I think is faster and iterating is really, way faster. The taking someone's feedback and being able to, throw it into ChatGPT and like get, more answers. And I think just that, kind of that helping you with that layer of, thoughtfulness that you can get from using the AI like helps a lot. So I'd say I'm probably like 50% more productive.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just find that ChatGPT and AI and Gemini now is really coming on strong. These are tools that are so well designed for people that have a lot of experience to just
Hmm.
do so much more, produce better quality work, much
Right.
faster without a team behind you
Yeah.
and having to pay the communication tax of working with the team.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, it feels like yeah, like you've got really an assistant, but an experienced assistant beside you, every step of the way, right? And you can bounce ideas off of them or not, and I think that the more information you give it, the better, results you're going to get out of it. And so I think that for me, like that's one thing I try to do a lot, like when I'm, working on projects and I use ChatGPT is to try to make sure that like I'm giving it enough of my personal point of view, and giving it enough information from the way that I see it and the way that I would want to do it that it's still got a lot of my personal touch to it, right? So that it's not just 100% AI. Because if you could let it do that, right? Like it could do everything for you. But I think that like really where the key is that you plus AI is where the real value comes in.
Yeah. And have you thought much about marketers these days that don't use AI tools in their work? Have you thought about that?
It's something that for me, it's would be really hard to believe that any marketer could go without using it. I think that I've been hearing stories about like, even marketers who write TV commercials, are using AI, so even some of the most creative minds and creative marketers like have some use for it, right? So yeah, I can't imagine, like how, it's like much slower they would be without it. But also I think it helps you to formulate a lot more ideas too, right? And to get off of zero faster, right? Like to, just start somewhere like much quicker, than I think that we were ever able to do before.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I actually know a few marketers that don't use AI, and I'm like,
Really?
"What are you?" I'm like, "You are gonna become obsolete so fast."
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens to him, right? Like, if it like it's just to me, it's like, yeah, you sort of like develop with AI, right? And it's like if you're developing without AI right now, like they're gonna look like a different marketer than the rest of us, right? A few years from now.
Stacey, thank you
Okay.
for joining me on Just One Thing. Really appreciate you coming and sharing some of your stories and insights as a very senior growth marketer. Really appreciate the time.
Great. So great to be here, Dennis. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
If anyone out there, if anyone's interested in speaking with you, is interested in having a conversation with you about their own positioning, marketing, strategy needs, growth needs, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. I have a website. It's called regardfulgrowth.com. And then my email is stacy@regardfulgrowth.com. Or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'd love to chat and just, see if there's maybe, yeah, any ways that we can, work together. And maybe there's an opportunity, down the road. But, still happy to give you my advice and share with you kind of some of my experiences, even if there's not an opportunity today.